Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Gemma and I'm going to be talking about the secret to running a business as an HSP and the magic of flow today. So before I start, just want to say a big thank you to Amanda for having me here in the group talking about this topic that I am hugely passionate about. If you have any questions as we go through, just pop them in if you're watching the live or if you're watching the replay, and I can come back to them at the end and afterwards. So I wanted to just start with a bit of an intro because I just popped up in the group, a new face, just to tell you a little bit about me and why I'm here. So I run a business called the Happiness Branch, and I help intuitive entrepreneurs to master their mindset and to use their superpowers. So a little bit of my background is that I was in a 15-year corporate career in financial services, which surprises a lot of people when they get to know me. And I had very extreme anxiety. So I knew then that I was an introvert. And I was doing lots of things. I know Amanda talks about this a lot. I was doing lots of things. I was trying to extrovert. And I was pushing through a lot of stuff. I wasn't listening to my body. And this was true for me when I started to run my business as well. So I was running my business on the side as a bit of a side hustle while I was working in my corporate job. And I was working in London for a lot of the week, which was very overwhelming. And doing all the things, going to all the meetings, going to all the networking events and all the things that I thought I kind of should do to run a business. And it put me on my knees. And that was when I realized that I was a highly sensitive person. So I've been on a huge journey through those, throughout the last 15 years and more. I've been on a huge journey with overcoming my anxiety, with realizing that actually a lot of the anxiety was actually intuition. And that helped me move into the space that I'm in now with my business and that I work with clients on. And it's just been, it's been an incredible journey. I actually ended up doing a TEDx last year, which again, I think surprises people when I tell them that I'm an introvert and I'm an HSP, and I did a TEDx and I stood on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is those strategies that I've used, myself. I have failed along the way. I have tried to run my business as an extrovert. I have tried to run my business as a non-highly sensitive person, and it just broke me, it floored me, and that's when the anxiety came out. So what I'm going to talk to you about today, there's kind of three main pillars that we can use when we run a business as a highly sensitive person and how we can get into flow. So the first pillar is your big dreams. So I'm going to talk about why those big dreams are important, and a lot of the time why we don't think about big dreams and we fixate so much on this kind of little piece that's happening over here for us, or maybe what's going wrong for us and how do we fix that rather than focusing on our big dreams. So we're going to explore that. We're going to look at happiness and mindfulness and self-care, because they are things that are hugely important and have been hugely important for me on my journey as an HSP. And we're also going to look at your unique design and your unique strengths, and how that can really help you to really flourish and get into that flow state. So I realised I was an HSP after feeling a lot of anxiety, feeling a lot of overwhelm. Knowing that I was introverted was groundbreaking, and I know Amanda talks about the Susan Cain book, and that was really revolutionary for me. But I always knew there was something more to it. I always knew, yes, I needed recharge time, but certain situations I didn't need as much recharge time. Certain situations I did. Certain places would make me feel overwhelmed and certain places wouldn't. So I knew there was more to it. And this is when I discovered the research by Elaine Aron. So highly recommend Elaine's book, The Highly Sensitive Person. There's also a test you can take online, and I can pop that in comments below if you haven't taken that test. So I took the test and I was 26 out of 27 on the HSP scale, so right up there at the top of the HSP scale. So it's been a bit of a journey. And when I reflected on my life, and I reflected on being HSP, I had a conversation with my mum about it, and there was a situation that she reminded me of, that when I was 8 years old, I actually saved my family's life by being a highly sensitive person, and I'd completely blocked that out. And it's just been incredible going back and understanding what went on there. So I'll tell you a little bit of the story. So when I was 8 years old, we were on holiday in France, and my sister wasn't very well for a lot of our childhood, and a lot of plans would have to get cancelled and moved and things. And we were in France, and in those days in France, in the French hospitals, people didn't speak much English. And we knew a little bit of French to, get by, order some croissants, but that wasn't quite gonna work in the hospital. So we had to come back to the UK. But my parents wanted to continue the holiday. So we ended up, it was school holidays, there was nothing really available, nothing left. So we ended up renting this really dodgy caravan in Kent. So those of you that aren't in the UK, Kent is at the bottom of the country. It's on the seaside, lovely place. So we ended up renting this caravan in Kent. And I remember being 8 years old and going to bed that first night and just knowing that something was not right. Just knowing, and I don't know how, because I didn't speak my truth. I didn't let my voice be heard for so many years after that. But in that moment, I knew in my heart, in my gut, that something was not right. And I started to make a huge fuss. I think this resulted in about 2 hours. My mum said I was screaming for about 2 hours to really get their attention. And my mum listened to me, because she sort of tuned in with her intuition, and she listened to me, and she went and got the maintenance man in the caravan park to come and check out the caravan. And he said, I don't know how, but your daughter was right. The gas coming into the caravan is actually faulty, and if you'd have gone to bed, you would not have woken up in the morning. So and I'd kind of forgotten that whole story, but I actually saved my family by being HSP. So it's a hugely important skill when you've got that intuition, to listen to that intuition, and act on that as well, and that can help you incredibly in your business as well. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because that is the key thing here. It is a strength. So it might resonate for you. So my story may resonate. You may have had something happen to you similar. It might be that you feel emotions on a really deep level. I know for me, give me a Disney song or an emotional song and I start crying. I'm a huge empath. I feel the emotions of others on a very deep level, and that can really help me in coaching, because sometimes I just know what's going on for someone before they've even said any words or opened their mouth. So that may resonate with you. But of course, there's two sides to that coin. There's a flip side, which is that we can become more overwhelmed, we may need more recharge time, and we may need to manage our energy. So I want to touch on the first of the 3 pillars for this training today, which is your big dream and vision. So a lot of the time this is just a kind of society thing, we don't focus on our big dreams and visions. We focus on what's gone wrong and how do we fix it. And this is ingrained, especially here in the UK. Let me know if this resonates wherever you are, but what's wrong with something and how do we fix it? That's very much how society, how corporates are set up, for how the medical model is set up. And and we don't focus on our big dream. And that's a very natural thing for us to do, because our body is designed to protect us from harm. So this is what is ultimately going on for us as an HSP. Okay, so we've got more sensory receptors in our brain. Therefore, we're picking up on more cues in our environment. Therefore, our body and brain, when we become overwhelmed, is just trying to keep us safe. That's all it's trying to do. So it's going into that fight or flight mode to help to keep us safe. But we want to flip that, because actually the neuroscience shows that when we focus on actually what is working, and we focus on that big dream and our goal, that firstly we get a massive flood of positive emotion. So this is the basis for positive psychology, and I'm going to come on to happiness more generally in a moment. But when we flood our brain with that experience of that big dream and vision, and we really feel into those emotions, what's going to happen is we're going to fuel our brain, because we're giving it neurochemicals, so things like dopamine and serotonin. We're flooding our brain with those happy hormones. So that's why it's really important to focus in on that big vision and dream. And as we know through like the law of attraction, that works as well. So it works on a scientific level, and on the law of attraction, the more we focus on, the more we bring into our world. And that, again, that exists within the quantum field as well. There's lots of science that sits behind that. I am a bit of a science geek at heart. My background is in psychology. I did a psychology degree. And I now start to blend some of that with some of the spirituality as well. So I am a bit of a geek at heart. So you will hear me talk about the science. So our brains are designed to protect us from harm, but to really achieve our potential and to step out of that, we need to flip that. So really dream big, really think about what is your vision for your business? Where do you want to be? What sort of clients? And let me know in comments, what sort of clients do you want to be working with? Where do you want to be working? What sort of work do you want to be doing? And really go to town and dream big. Because a lot of the time we don't allow ourselves to dream big, but actually, it's neuroscientifically shown to really, really help us and move us towards that goal. Because there are limitless possibilities out there for what we can achieve, and for who we work with and the work we do and everything. It's very, very exciting. So dream really big. And this is in particular really key right now, because there's a huge, I'm not going to go into the politics of what's going on in the world right now, but there is a huge narrative around fear, around lack, around recessions and things like that. So there's this huge narrative that's actually being manifested in the world at the moment. So it's super, super important for us as entrepreneurs that we flip that narrative and we step into that space and we become leaders for this stuff. It's really, really important. So the more that you can focus on your big dream and vision, the more you will achieve success in your business, and therefore the more you'll be able to give back freely, and the more you'll be able to impact on the world and impact on on your community. So that's the first one. That first pillar, big dream and vision, and then we're going to come on to happiness and mindfulness and self-care. So for me, happiness is a really interesting concept. So this sits within the science of positive psychology. So of course, if you asked somebody, do you want to be happy? They would say yes, like who doesn't want to be happy? But there's so much more to it than this. So when we tap into happiness and we tap into positive emotion, what we do is we start to fuel the brain. So the science of psychology, positive psychology shows us that as we start to fuel the brain, the fight or flight mode shuts down, and we begin to have more ability to think creatively, to think productively, to be able to do so much more with less in our business. So we're actually working smarter when we bring in happiness. That is scientifically shown to be the case. I've done my own research on this, which is what I talked about on my TEDx. I'll also pop a link to that below. And I found that this had a dramatic impact on the happiness of the well-being of the people that took part in my study. And this has been taken even further. So Sean Akel, one of the researchers, he's actually found that happiness creates more sales in businesses as well. So not only does it increase our productivity, there's a direct correlation with sales when we tap into positive psychology and we tap into happiness. And there's many reasons why that is the case, which I don't have time to go into today, but the main one is the brain fuel, because we are, we're giving ourselves a chance to have more brain fuel, to do more, to be more productive, to be more energized. And of course, when we're energized, we become magnetic and people want to be in our energy as well. So that's hugely important. And mindfulness as well. So this is what my TEDx was about, that combination of mindfulness and happiness. And mindfulness can really help us to just tune in with the present moment and just go, okay, what's going on for me right now in my body? What am I feeling? And just be with whatever comes up for you that day without judgment. And it helps us to take a step back. So what we can do is, when you've had a busy day, you've had lots of stuff going on, your brain fuel's running a little bit low, and then someone says something that just winds you up, and then before you know it, something's come out of your mouth and you've snapped. We all know what that can be like when our brain fuel's running a bit low, our willpower might be running a bit low. So what mindfulness can do is help us to take that step back, to see things. So with my anxiety, this was hugely helpful because I was able to just take such a step back that I could see the first glimmer of anxiety coming. So it was like, oh, hello, I can feel this little niggle of anxiety in my chest. Okay, what do we need to do with that now we've got that? Whereas before I'd learnt this stuff, it would already be, I was asked to speak at a lot of events early days in my business, and I was just an anxious mess. I'd be up on stage and then suddenly the anxiety would hit me and I'd lose my words and things like that. And then I'd be physically ill afterwards as well. So with mindfulness, we can start to notice that early sign, and then we can choose to think about how we're going to move through that. And treat that with that kind of kindness that we would a friend as well. So I found this hugely important, is to treat my anxiety like a friend and kind of welcome it in and say, okay, so we're going to be here today, so what do we need to do? And of course, a lot of the time our brain is in that fight or flight mode, is feeling like we're unsafe. So sometimes, and this crosses over with the next bit I'm going to talk about, so sometimes for me it's going above and beyond to make myself feel really safe and comfortable. So today I've got my fairy gilet on, it's not real fur, and that's making me feel cozy and comfortable. I might make a cup of tea, have a blanket on me, so doing what you can to what have I noticed, and then what am I going to do with that, in particular what am I going to do to be kind to myself. And this comes on nicely to the self-care point. So if you're resonating with being highly sensitive, and this is true for introverts as well, then you need to do much more self-care than you really think. Okay, so think about the amount of self-care that you need, and then I want you to up it, because what's happening is our sensory receptors in our brain are getting overstimulated, which is then switching on that fight or flight mode. And the best way to turn that fight or flight mode off is, as well as the happiness, is to do lots of self-care, because it's ultimately making your body feel safe, and then you can step into that place where you can think logically, you can think creatively, and all those things. So when I did my TEDx, I did so much self-care. And I've had so many people reach out to me and say, how did you do a TEDx? Expecting me to give them some kind of, step-by-step formula. But the most important thing was upping my self-care. So I didn't leave the house really for 2 weeks around doing it, so that I could protect my energy, I could protect my time. This is before the days of lockdown, so we were out and about much more, and on the day as well doing loads of self-care. So making sure I had a healthy, nourishing lunch, making sure I felt really guilty about not watching the other speakers, but I thought, well, I can watch them online later. I actually need to make sure I'm in a good place to get up there on that stage. So I did lots of walking, I did lots of meditating. I spent quite a long time in the car park, and just bringing in that self-care. So we need to do more self-care than we think to run a business as an HSP, because it helps to create that safety for us. And of course, a really important one around self-care is boundaries. Boundaries have been huge for me in my life in general, as well as my business. So, boundaries around how you work, when you work, who you work with. So, as an example, I used to just work with anyone that came my way. I used to do a lot of work in the mindfulness space only, before I started to kind of bring all my skills together and really speak my truth. And just anyone that had, issues, that wanted some help, I would say, yeah, come in, and so I didn't have those boundaries. I didn't have boundaries with friends and family. And I've really had to work on those and really build those up over time. So what I now have is for my higher ticket programs, I have an application process. So I can make sure that when I get on that first initial call with someone, that I already know that we're a good fit. I've got that level of boundary already set. So, I will ask questions about them in that application, and I will say, this is an application process. So if we're not successful, and this is, a two-way thing as well. If you're not successful, then I will let you know. So, being really clear on who you work with. And this is a great thing as well, is that, there are millions of people in the world. So it is completely okay to set that intention for who you want to work with and work with those people. There is no need to be in that lack mindset around having to work with certain people. So yeah, I found this hugely empowering. And of course, when you set that boundary as well, what you're doing on an energy level is you're setting that energetic space for those clients to come in. As soon as you fill your time with just, whoever from up the road, you're actually not then creating the energetic space for those clients to come in as well. So that's hugely important. So boundaries is so important. And one of the phrases that I have as well, which I see evidence of this appearing time and time again for both me and my clients, is when I take care of my body, money comes in. And this just has happened for me time and time again. So if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I've got something physically going on with my body, then when I take the time to actually, bring in that kindness, bring in that self-care, bring in what I need, that's when the money and the clients come in. And it's happened time and time again. I've been out walking in the woods and suddenly a client has come in. So it's really interesting how that dynamic works, and there's loads of kind of science that sits around why that works as well. So, and then the last pillar that we're going to look at is your unique design and your unique strengths. So this is a really important thing, is that everyone as an introvert is different. Everyone as which I know Amanda said in her training the other day, everyone as an HSP is different. So we're all brought to this planet with our unique design, with our unique strengths, the things that light us up and things that don't light us up. And what's really important is to follow what lights you up. So we can see that's the evidence of that from the stuff I talked about with happiness, because if you're following what lights you up, then you're getting all those boosts of chemicals in your brain, so you're able to do so much more. But also, on that energy level as well, you're not then spreading your energy too thinly, but you're doing the things that give you the most energy. So the two kind of main things that I use around this, so there's quite a fluid concept here around intuition. So when I work with my clients, we'll focus in on kind of where that intuition is in their body, what sort of signs they get come in when they meditate, and how we build that unique intuition. So that one's a bit more fluid. And then there's a couple of tools that I use as well, which is, one is strengths profile. and one is human design. So with our strengths, what we're looking at is we're looking at things that we are good at, that we find energizing, and the energy is the really key bit. So a strength is not just something that you're good at, it's something that you find energizing, because it is the energy that then gives you that forward momentum and gives you that, that ability to do more with that. So strengths has been hugely empowering for me. And what you can do with strengths as well is when you're working with others, by understanding their strengths and their weaknesses, you can work together more effectively. And in particular for me with my clients, knowing that someone's got a certain strength, we can actually pull on that as a bit of a strategy. So I'll give an example. A real life example of this is when I was asked to do TEDx. One of my strengths is growth. One of my weaknesses is competitive. So I'm just not competitive at all. So if someone said to me, get up there on that stage, be competitive, be the best, that would have just not lit me up. That would have just drained me. Whereas if someone said to me, wow, you love learning and growing, so how can you use this experience of TEDx to really learn and grow as a person and help everyone else to grow in the audience, use it as a method of helping them learn and grow. So by tapping into that growth strength, that gave me that energy and it gave me the ability to stand up on that stage. So yes, I needed lots of recharge time and self-care around it, but I was able to use it as like a forward momentum and a forward step into doing something that I never thought I would be able to do as a 26 out of 27 HSP and massive introvert. So and even just doing Facebook Lives. So I didn't do Facebook Lives for a really long time because they filled me with complete dread and fear. But over time, by using these strategies, I've been able to come on camera, and my confidence has grown over time. But I do have to do a lot of self-care around it. So I was meditating just before I dropped onto here, and I will then have to have some recharge time afterwards. So I do still have to bring those strategies in. It's not just magic. I'm here and then I go do another live or anything like that. I still have to work around it, but I'm able to do it. So really tuning in with who you are, and what's hugely important to me is to empower you to be you. Okay, so not looking at trying to create another me or trying to create another Amanda, but to create to help you, to empower you to use that energy in a way that works for you really effectively. And this is where human design can come in as well. So human design is like a blend of, so strengths is very, very neuroscience based, very psychology based, and human design brings together a little bit of astrology with a little bit of science, and is based on neutrinos at the time of your birth. So this creates a complete unique design for you and your strategy. So for example, my strategy is sacral authority. So when I make decisions and when something comes in, when someone asks me to do something, or when I think about like the next step for my business, I'll tune in with my body and I'll go, body, is this the right thing to do? Because a lot of the time we're in our heads. So by understanding our unique design, we can tap into, okay, where is our intuition? Where is our response in our body that we need to tune in with to help us to move forward on whether it's the right decision or not. So if you're not sure where your intuition is based, what you can do is you can use a yes/no coin. So let me know if you've ever done this before. So what you can do is you can get a coin, and one side, heads is like, you can have it whichever way around you want. Heads is a yes, tails is a no. Ask the question out loud. Let's say, do I want a salad for lunch? Don't know why that popped into my head. Flip the coin and see what the coin says. And if the coin says yes, and your body goes, ooh, yay, like that feels like the right decision, then notice where you feel that in your body and notice that reaction. If you flip the coin and it says yes, and you notice your body contract and go, oh no, then you can use that to then tune in with that intuition by asking that question, getting that response, and then seeing where you respond to it. So It's really important to firstly understand your unique intuition and your design so that you can tune in with that and think about how to move forward, to manage your energy on a daily basis, and also to manage that energy from others as well as an HSP. So, this is why I'm so strict on my boundaries, because if I worked with people that drained my energy all the time, I'd have nothing to give to clients. So and this is also why I've become a Reiki practitioner. So I bring the Reiki in with the science as well, where we actually can, physically clear out energy that's been picked up from others and overwhelm, and even physical things that we're feeling that are getting in the way and that are blocking us from really moving forward into that space of flow, into that space of abundance that we really desire. So I think that's about it in terms of what I wanted to share with you today. So just to summarize those 3 main pillars. So the first one is focusing on your big dreams. So remember that the brain is always trying to do the opposite. We're always trying to fix what's wrong. We're always trying to play it small to protect ourselves. But it's okay to have a big dream, because that comes from, if it comes from that place of real desire and a service to help and to, change the world, then that's really important that we actually, we go for that and we go for our big dream. We actually flip that narrative of lack that's going on at the moment. It's really important for us as entrepreneurs to be leaders in that space. You can tell I'm quite passionate about that. I also feel it's a real responsibility as well. So, and then the second one was happiness and mindfulness and self-care. So, this is really on the well-being side, how we can boost our brain through positive emotion, through positive psychology, and the neuroscience of why that works. Upping our self-care to really help us to feel safe and, so that we can, do those things that we need to do to really move into that aligned action space in our business. And then lastly, your unique design. So, you are all unique. You are unique for your unique strengths, your unique design that you came here to this planet with, and, the way that your intuition works and where that is in your body will be unique to you. So it's really important to come back and tune in with who you authentically are and use that as a strategy to move forward. So I hope that's been helpful. Any questions at all, just drop them below and I will come back to them. Any questions, let me know. And big thank you, Amanda, for having me talk in the group today. Speak to you all soon. Bye.